Hi, everybody. This is Kathy L. Murphy. Through a comedy of errors, which is appropriate for what we're watching tonight, Ruthie and I were having a hard time connecting on. This is Ruthie Landis from Chicago, one of my authors, and also a film buff like me. And we finally got connected. So I've got a little glitch between two Zooms. I'll have it figured out by next week. But I pulled in all my animals. I've even got my tiger back here somewhere that I've had for, gosh, 20 some years, that I always use at Girlfriend Weekend because I've always had a thing for animals. And so when I was a kid, there was this film. I watched black and white films, classic films with my family. That was our entertainment on our old Curtis Matthews black and white television. And Bringing Up Baby was one of my favorites because as a kid, I didn't want to be Jane. I wanted to be Tarzan. I have all the Tarzan books, and I wanted to be Tarzan because Tarzan was fearless, and I was a big chicken. And so we built a tree house, and I would try to swing out of there and just took all the skin off my hands. Everybody's heard this story. So I always, when I saw this movie, I thought, I want a pet leopard because back in the 50s, well, even the 30s, people did have exotic pets like leopards and things as house pets. And they still do today. They're not appropriate for a house pet because, if you ever read Cats of Shambhalaya by Tippi Hedren, you would know that they can sometimes turn on you, as well as the two white tiger trainees in Las Vegas. They're wild animals. But so this is my cheetah and my lion, my tiger's over here. But I wanted a leopard because I thought, how cool would it be to play Tarzan in my neighborhood with a real leopard? Now that just shows you what a crazy imagination I had when I was a kid, because I spent my childhood in books. And so Treasure Island, The Count of Monte Cristo. I was acting out. My aunt worked in a bookstore, and my aunts would get me these classic books for Christmas. And I think I got hooked on Tarzan because of the movies first. I really just thought the Tarzan was a hunk. And all of them. I liked all of them. But now we're here tonight with Bringing Up Baby, and I just watched it again. I was painting a panther, believe it or not, which I found out is really a leopard with a genetic mutation. Did you know that, of having dark pigment? But you can still kind of see the spots coming through. A leopard is actually, a panther is actually a type of leopard. So I was watching it, listening to it and paint. I thought it's just perfect, what I'm doing. National Geographic did this big story this month on the tigers of India, how they're coming back from being in danger because of these photography safaris you can go on. And so I decided today I was going to paint a panther. So, oh, and by the way, this is my painting as I'm working on it.
Wow. Wow.
I just started it, so it's not done. Is it not great?
Oh my God, it's phenomenal.
I love it. And I got the color idea. It's not done. It's going to have really crazy eyes. I got the idea because I got in these new travel bags, hopefully, so I could travel one of these days. And they were orange with botanicals and all over it. And I love that look. And so I thought, well, I'll use that as the background, and then I'll paint in a panther. I like doing animals. I really like to paint animals more than people because I like to do fur and stuff. So anyway, I was watching it again, and it is still as funny as when I was a kid. And I was reading a little commentary on this film. It's considered one of the best comedy written films ever because of the repartee between not just Cary Grant and Katherine Hepburn, who star in the film, but between the aunt and the lawyer and all the different people that come on board, and the fiance, and just who, it was so fast. I mean, you can watch it over and over and you can always be entertained. But, and the dog, having the little dog in it. So if people haven't seen the film, I highly recommend you watch it with the whole family because it's a family movie and it's funny as all get out. Now I'm going to turn over to Ruthie because Ruthie always has wonderful insight into all aspects of filmmaking. So, your comments, Ruthie.
Well, I had seen it a long time ago for sure, at least once, maybe with my parents another time and everything. And so, last night, this is what struck me about it. So first I want to say, I love Cary Grant, but I did not love him in this movie. I did not love him in this movie. He could not keep up with her. She, so Katherine Hepburn was so brilliant comically. I mean, she was a serious actress, but comically. So when she was in films with Spencer Tracy, where there's this really substantial actor. I mean, Spencer Tracy, could do no wrong as far as I'm concerned. So he would bring a certain weightiness or substance to whatever they were doing together. And then she was the comic piece off of him. And it always worked because here's this brilliant woman, strong. You don't want to mess with her as a human being, Katherine Hepburn, who went swimming in freezing cold water every single day. And I mean, she was something. But then she played these sort of brilliant ditzes at the same time. I mean, they were always a little ditzy. They're always, her lines are all delivered like just so light, and she doesn't work at the comedy. And I felt, though Cary Grant, I thought, like, he was wonderful with other actresses, he could not keep up with her, is what I felt. And so I felt that he was trying too hard. Now, not the other actors. The other actors were wonderful character actors, right, that did this kind of thing all the time. But I was disappointed, and then I kept thinking, was it just bad casting because he was so handsome and he was trying to play a nerd, and he couldn't quite pull off the nerd. He doesn't usually try to play a nerd ever. So I have to say that I was a little disappointed in the imbalance with comedic timing and stuff. That said, from a script point of view, what you said is absolutely true. It is like a Shakespearean comedy of errors, and we were having our own comedy of errors. So I thought, try to get on Zoom. I was like going,
it was crazy.
We're playing the movie. We're in the movie right now. Now it's the vicious lion. Now it's, vicious leopard. Now it's the other one. I mean, it was so written structurally like a Shakespearean comedy, of the really lighter comedies, because this one's always missing. This one, you start out with the premise that that they hate each other, like Taming of the Shrew and all these things. They hate each other. She doesn't hate him exactly. She's attracted to him, but he's just like, oh my God, get away from me. And he's so clueless. And then just how they just keep missing each other and terrible. She makes terrible things happen. I mean, how could she be so, like, she just keeps fumbling everything up, and yet she's like, oh well, and I don't know. This is an example of an actress who, I mean, she was such a brilliant woman, Katherine Hepburn, and to play such a complete ditz without judging her character. Her character was just resilient. just always resilient. And so anyway, so that's my opinion. I think the script was like, oh my God, brilliant and frustrating. And like, oh my God, not another one. Oh no, not that, but I just think she was phenomenal. The lightness with which she plays whatever she plays. There's never a feeling that she's trying, you know.
Uh,
So
I would have I'm come back with you with Cary Grant. Cary Grant was a bumbler. I mean, he was playing an academic. Here he is trying to find this lost dinosaur bone, which is just hilarious. And at the same time, have you ever known anybody in archaeology?
yes, I have. Yes.
My daughter was a anthropology archaeology major, and she traveled to Belize with the New York Explorers Club, which they were talking about in the movie. And I go, wow, I'd completely forgotten that was mentioned in the movie. She went on a scholarship to Belize in Guatemala. But they sometimes I think people get so caught up in the minutia, they don't have really a good sense of humor. So he couldn't keep up with her because he was confused the whole movie.
Well,
But I didn't really see it as miscast. I saw it as hilarious because it was like half the time he didn't even know what was hitting him. And the whole thing about the leopard and the one was a pet. Well, I don't want to give anything away. I don't want to do anything because there's so much going on in this film, but it's really she always plays this of privilege, a young woman of privilege, and therefore to me she gets bored easily, and so finding somebody who's so the opposite of her she finds really attractive because she's so used to everybody in the pretense, the Great Gatsby, the pretense of the cocktail parties and everything. All of a sudden, this guy comes along, and when he fell on that olive, how he did that, I mean, that was him. I mean, he took that pratfall. I was thinking you had to get that exactly right to pull that off. And personally, I would hate to be in a movie where I had to fall down all the time because I think that hurt. And I know actors do it all the time, but and then the clothing and they've colorized some of the scenes, but to me, there is nothing better than a black and white movie because you get lost in the story and not
Did
so
they
much.
colorize it? Did they like
There's some colorized scenes up on YouTube.
So I watched it on HBO Max and it was black and white.
I watched it on YouTube and it was black and white, but they've got all kinds of renditions. In fact, there's a young woman that just started a commentary, which was really interesting, where you watch the film with her and she's talking on YouTube while you watch it somewhere else, I guess. I'm thinking, how is she doing that? And then she has to wear earbuds in her ears so she can hear the movie. But I can't imagine how you could get that to come off at the same exact time. She just started this in 2022. So kudos to her, though, because if she can pull that off, I think that's amazing. That just popped up. And but Cary Grant is in some of my favorite films. Father Goose. Did you ever see Father Goose?
Yeah, I think I've seen that's why I think I was a little surprised because I think, when he was in stuff with Audrey Hepburn and, I mean, I guess
Yeah.
Well, I kept thinking because I love him. But he's never had to play somebody so clueless. He always plays. So it's very interesting, your point about, she always plays
she's smart.
entitled. Yeah.
Her mother, her family, I've read a lot about her, and they were very much into education and she was a feminist before
there was anything. So and yet she would she would often play, like I said, the brilliant ditz, right? Because she kind of knew that in that society, in order to stand up, I mean, what's the one with her and Spencer Tracy when they were lawyers? Oh my God.
Oh my gosh, is that
Oh,
the Philadelphia? Is that no
Philly,
Philadelphia story? No,
I think that's exactly it. And it's so
I've seen them
brilliant.
all. I've seen everything she's ever
Oh,
done.
and
Her
so
latter work.
so what I'm thinking is, what I direct from a director's point of view, to get more for the buck, like when she was in the scenes with the psychiatrist.
God.
So
Ah.
he was so serious
Oh,
and so and crazy himself, really kind of odd and crazy himself. So those scenes really, those really worked. Those really worked. Um,
and the
I
police
feel,
station scene. The police station scene.
yes.
Kind of
Oh my
like
God.
Abbott and Costello. I mean,
It was.
the same one
Well, I
thing.
kept saying the Three Stooges, Abbott and Costello, all that like going on, and this one coming in and that one coming in. Yeah, from a script, and so what I was like going, what would I have wanted more of? So they went with him kind of being clueless and vapid in a way. And I think it would have been funnier if he was really serious, less of a fop, and really serious. He was an archaeologist. I mean, and these bones and and yet I know I saw that in the script, like he was going to marry this other lady who was so serious and controlling, right? And
Right.
he didn't really want to marry her.
No.
He didn't even know why he was marrying her. Why was he
Oh
even marrying?
yeah, and then at the very beginning of the movie, when he said, "I can't believe I found the lost bone, and we're getting married on the same day," and he goes, "What a great way to celebrate the honeymoon." She goes, "Oh no, we've got to devote ourselves to work." And he goes, "What?" And she goes, "Oh, you'll have to wait for that later." And I'm going, "Well, that was a switch. Usually it's the other way around." I thought it was hilarious, but you know, I thought the way he played it was being a. I think she found him charming because she's always used to these people with always have just the right thing to say. He never had the right thing to say. He was so confused. He even let her take his car. I mean, no, it was. I don't know what I would have done in that situation if somebody in a scene
Oh,
there.
well, I mean, I think she also, along those lines, I think I think that's why, again, I would wanted to see him be a harder nut to crack in a way.
So you think
And
Spencer Tracy would have been a better choice?
well, I mean, he was so fabulous and everything with her. I was thinking who around that time could have handled the comedy, but have had more like
William Powell?
really, really serious. Who?
William Powell?
Yeah, he might have been able to.
Because he
Like,
can play very
yes.
stern character,
Well, yeah, because like over serious about his archaeology, but at the same time, someone who needed to be disarmed. Now I mean, the script does it. It's not the script. There is no flaw in the script. I think the script is hilarious.
But we
It's
also have to think of the time, 1938. Who is the most popular star? They
Oh,
liked.
I know why he was cast. It's clear why he was cast. And then she kept saying, "Oh, I like you so much better without your glasses. I just love you so much better. You look so much more handsome without your glasses." And not with a southern accent, but you know what I mean. She has that New England kind of running along kind of talk. And and the problem with Cary Grant is, one, doesn't he look handsome? I mean, with the glasses, he didn't look handsome.
He's like George Clooney. I mean, George Clooney.
Yes, exactly.
You're like,
Right, like how you gonna make George Clooney a real nerd? A real nerd? I don't know.
well, oh brother, well, where art thou? Tried to do it, but No, it still worked. He's still as handsome, with his Dapper Dan hair tonic or cream or whatever.
I know, and then hair and everything. And so, I mean, he was an absent. So I know he was supposed to be an absent-minded professor. But
Yes.
I'm thinking that if he was a little more serious about
Would have been
everything,
as funny though.
I think it would have been funnier. So that's what I'm saying. That would have been
Your
funny.
job is to come up with who would have been
All
that
right,
role.
that's a deal. I will think
Jimmy
about it.
Stewart.
Oh, Jimmy Stewart would have been perfect.
Jimmy Stewart could have played it off.
Okay, now I've got it. He would have been perfect because you know how he could be very, he'd come at it,
Oh,
and then
Harvey.
you have to listen to me.
Harvey. I mean, no, that was one of my
But at the same
favorites.
time, he could be a little absent-minded too, and look at, I don't fault Cary, you were fabulous, but I just thought it was something in what was happening between them.
I've got to share a story about Cary Grant. Mitchell Kaplan, who owns Books and Books down in Coral Gables, Florida, a wonderful bookstore. He had a launch party for us when we went on our Pulpwood Queen cruise out of Miami. Super nice guy. He was telling me about, I needed to read Cary Grant's daughter's book, which was just in the store, and he had a signed first edition. So I ordered it. I have never been so surprised in my life. Cary Grant married Diane Cannon, and they weren't married very long, but they had a daughter. And he was so devoted to her, and he was older. He was an older father, and Diane Cannon was way younger. He retired from acting to devote the rest of his life to his daughter. And in the book, I learned he wrote a letter to his daughter every day. No matter where they were, he wrote her a letter every day, a love letter.
Sweetheart.
Well, and then she said, I never married. I don't know what her status is now, but she's, I think, younger than me. But she says, I never married because I never could find anybody that was like my father, because he was so devoted to me.
And he was bisexual, he was both married and had relationships with guys.
I've heard that rumor, but I didn't ever know if it was true. But you hear that about John Wayne, you hear that about a lot of Gary Cooper, all these different.
Oh yeah, people, and I could be wrong about this, but I think he had a relationship. I think, I don't want to get this wrong, but I think he had a relationship with Danny Kaye, who was another person who was married forever, but he was bisexual, but I mean, handsome. So I mean, but Cary Grant was handsome and a good guy.
He was a good guy. I mean, you should read. I can't think of her name. I've got it here somewhere, but it was the most. He said, I just couldn't put the book down, and I couldn't either, because I never heard of a father who was so devoted to his children.
Okay, so let me ask you, if you had Cary Grant for your father, could you ever settle for anybody else? I mean, my God, he was so sweet and so handsome and so charismatic and so funny, and I don't know, it would kind of spoil me, don't you think?
I would have liked to have had that happen, but I adored my father, but I never knew him until I was a grown-up, until I became children of my own. That's when I got to know my father. But when I was little, he was always gone, So yeah, I would have loved to experience that. But it still had to have been hard for her because, her mother, and, it's everybody. That's why I love to read, because when you read the stories behind the stories, I just watched The Fame Game on Netflix, the Indian thriller with Madhura Dixit, and I've watched a lot of her films, and she fascinates me, and she is the most fabulous dancer. I saw her in Devdas, which is my favorite Shah Rukh Khan film. So I ordered a book on her. And now that I've read the book, I admire even more. I mean, she started 16 as a child, and she got married in an arranged marriage with a U.S. Indian man who's a cardiologist, at the height of her popularity. And to this day, she is still one of the highest paid Indian actresses and still getting film deals. She's brilliant. I mean, she's lovely. And a lot of things about her, she doesn't look like my mother at all, but the way my mother carried herself reminds me of Madura Dixit, because she said, if you're out, and I still do it myself because my mother taught me this, if you're going to be on camera or if you're going to be speaking, you need to be that persona and dress up. Because every once in a while I have to share what I really look like so people won't get shocked when they see me in person, because without any makeup and everything, I'm just this little rural Kansas kid. But when you go, it's a part of entertainment. And that's what films are. They're entertaining to me, and they bring a story to your lives that takes you away from COVID and all the things that are going on in the Ukraine. And the most popular movies of all times were war times, because people were looking for escapism. And it's really been sad, because during COVID, it pretty much shut down the film industry here in the United States. And that's when we need it the most. So, that's why I started watching all these foreign films. And I have thoroughly, I watched one last night that was just a 2003 movie. And then I'm watching it, and Shah Rukh Khan has a cameo in it. I'm going, yay! One film I hadn't seen. So, but I just love to watch films because they, when you're locked up, per se, because of my health issues, in a cabin in the wood for years, I feel like a little bit like Tom Hanks on that island, at least I'm not drawing a face in blood on a volleyball or whatever. I haven't gone that far yet, but
you have a lot of friends. You have a lot of friends with you. You have your animal friends. You have your
I talk to them. They actually really look real to me. This one, don't they look? I had somebody.
I want to tell you, at night when you go to sleep, my senses, they come alive. And that guy behind you, he comes alive. You've got and your your poster of.
I have people go, you've met him, right? I go, no, I'm never going to meet him. He's got like 44 million fans, Of course not. I'm not going to meet him.
But do you remember in the Twilight Zone, there was an episode where it was in the store at night and all the mannequins came alive and they all had personalities. I loved that episode of the Twilight Zone so much.
I loved the one that I remember the most was Rod Serling was the best. I was so into that kind of, it was horror, but it was your mind. It wasn't like blood and guts, but this little girl, her father gave her a doll for a birthday, and it was big, a big doll in a big box, and she loved it, and it was her plaything. And then her doll started talking to her and say, let's trade places. You see that one? And so she agreed to trade places with the doll, and you see the doll come alive and runs off as a little girl. And then she's laying in the box as a doll. And I was like, I had nightmares about that, literally.
I know. They were so imaginative, so amazing.
I love that kind of, like The Birds and Alfred Hitchcock, the suspense, like The Fame Game. Man, I was on my edge of the seat trying to figure out.
Well, don't tell me, because
it's really good.
I've been watching.
Really good. And she is just like back at the top of the charts. Her movie came out at the perfect time. And Karan Johar, who did so many of Shah Rukh Khan's films, did it. And it's just climbing the charts. And what I think is great about COVID is these movies that would never be seen. Because, of
And
all
they
the,
are available, like,
they're
you
now
know,
being streamed on all these.
I agree with you 100%, because, the only time we could watch them, my parents were, I mean, they knew every movie, trivia buffs like you cannot imagine.
I
And
would
there
have
was
loved your parents. I would
Oh,
have.
you would have loved my parents. And so, I mean, there wasn't one movie or one actor, like, if in answer to the question you asked me, but I do think Jimmy Stewart would have been pretty terrific in this. Not as handsome, but that would have been okay. But he would
I
have
think
had,
he is so handsome.
well, he was, but not, not in that
Hollywood.
beauty, Hollywood beauty thing that Cary Grant had. But I agree with you about Jimmy Stewart. But I want to just say that my parents would have been able to figure out, oh yeah, they would needed this one or this one. But
Well, we've got you now,
but
Ruthie.
but I want to say that they were just glued to Turner Classics channel,
Oh,
because it was the only place you could get these old movies.
when I was in high school, 10:30 was the late night show, and then they'd have a 12:30. And my senior year in high school, I can't tell you how many times I've watched the 10:30 movie and then the 12:30 movie, and then the next day getting up for school.
You sneaky girl. Well,
I love
have to,
movies.
I have to end early tonight, if that's okay with you.
I love
uh,
your ensemble. We've
oh,
got, show everybody your.
we match, but it's a very bad hair day, and with my eyeball, I
How
can't.
is your eye, by the way, Ruthie?
My eye is the same, and it's very distressing. As I look at you now, I see, if I close this eye, I see Kathy, and if I close this eye, I see Kathy, and I see.
Oh man, I hate to hear that, but
And the worst part is, like, I can pull this off, but reading, like, it's really hard to read. So
I have had. It's only been until just this year that I've been able to read at night again, because my eyes, when you have things happen to your eyes, people don't realize diabetes, the sugar crystals build up on your
yes,
cornea.
I know.
And I've got, which amidst the many things I've got to do, I've got to set up another appointment with my eye doctor, but let me get through all this other stuff.
Oh no, do not do that, please, because look what I just went through. So please don't wait.
Oh, I
Please.
won't. It's just that it all, between getting my teeth fixed and having this issue with my diabetes, blood sugar not coming down. And the cool thing is about Facebook is I decided I was embarrassed by not being able to handle diabetes, because the type I have is lifestyle and food choices. But I have done it by the book. So to admit defeat in not getting my blood sugar down, and now it's spiking even more, it was embarrassing. Then I thought, wait a minute, I bet I'm not the only one. So I decided to put it out there, and I think I've gotten 350 messages on Facebook.
Oh.
And I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me by email and called me and said, listen, I had the same thing that you're going to have done. I'm going to have I had the gastric sleeve, and I wish I'd done it years earlier, because I don't have to take any more medication.
You are going to be great. You are going to be great. But please just listen to me as we sign off. Your eyes are beautiful, and your eyes are so important. And boy, am I aware of that now. So
I was copying my.
So please fit it in your schedule and go to the ophthalmologist. Promise me, would you?
I will.
I mean, isn't it fun? So you can join. I was on a call with TK Thorne today.
Oh my God, I love her.
So we were talking, and I was calling it the Oi Oi Club. And so it's like to join the Oi Oi Club. So, well, how are you? Oh, you really want to hear how I am? Here, let me tell you this. Oh, really? You want to hear about this?
Oh my God, Ruthie, you've got to read. Richard Fifield, one of our authors, sent me a story about another author, Sarah Estel, and she'd written a story about when she went through divorce. she joined this group called the Worst Wives Club.
Yeah.
It was the funniest story, but she said, I thought when we got together, we'd all trash the men who dumped us, you know. And she goes, it was the exact opposite. These
Yeah.
women, we all lifted each other up. We watched each other's kids if we had to go to meet the attorney.
And that's what happens with the Oi Oi Club, because we all have these challenges when we, you know, I'm 43, having been 43 for many, 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 many years. My friend said to me, we're 39 until we turn 43, and then we're 43 for the rest of our lives. And I called him up and he's going, oh God, I've got gout. I said, join the Oi Oi Club.
You know, what's really funny is, you know, my mother would never tell anybody her age, ever, ever, ever. And, you know, of course, I did everything to be exactly the opposite of my mother. And I've told everybody my age. My life is an open book. And guess what? I'm just like my mother. I mean,
So, darling,
I tried to do everything the opposite, but all the things that I'm passionate about were the things.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
So,
So
God bless her.
it's a good thing I adored my parents, because I am a combination of them, and it is really fun. But sweetheart, I'm just telling you, I'm missing the next 2 weeks because I'm going to Philadelphia to do workshops.
I'm
going to be
so
conducting some
excited for
workshops.
you.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to, I may be getting Steve Manchester on to talk about his Thursday night book club book is going to film, and he's going to Connecticut. So I'm going to do some things till you come back. I'm going to hold off on some of the films. I'm just going to do some ones that I love and want to talk about. And
I'm just going to miss the next two. That's all.
And Robert is too, because he's on book tour, but that's okay. There's so many movies that I could talk about. In fact, I could talk all night. You got to go.
All right. I got to go.
Love you. And we'll get it right when you get back on the Zoom. Okay.
All right. Love you. Bye.
Bye. It's all about the story.